Right now at 6, an Oklahoma man is arrested after scamming a Lamar, Missouri resident out of more than $250,000.
And we've got a fairly decent looking sunrise, already warm and muggy, hot and muggy later today. A look at your forecast coming up.
Plus, what brought the CEO of the Children's Miracle Network to Joplin?
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Elise Snowy.
I'm Chris Warner. It's Wednesday, July the 16th, and it is really starting to feel like July out there in the 4 states. You know, we got pretty lucky. Our summer hasn't been too awful to us, but I guess Mother Nature's decided it's time to crank up the heat and
Seems like it for sure.
Feel a little more seasonable out there. Let's start with a quick look outside downtown Pittsburgh. Looks fantastic. And again, if you're inside today working, maybe your office or wherever it is has a nice window view, great time to be inside enjoying the AC, because it is not going to be a good time to be outside. MoDOT camera 20th and Range Line in Joplin also looking good this morning. Now late this evening, really overnight, we have the chance, as we talked about yesterday, far northern counties could get an isolated strong storm or two. What we're expecting really is a batch of storms, going to be a greater severe threat well to our north, might try and clip our far northern counties. It's a very isolated risk. It is a very low risk, but it is there, so something we'll keep an eye on. And if it makes it this far and is still strong, the low grade severe will be sometime after midnight. We'll go over all that with you here in a few minutes. But in order to get our day started, we're just going to take you through the afternoon. We're going to have gusty southwest winds, pop-up storms again today. The last couple of days they've started as early as 11 a.m. Today not going to be the case. It'll probably be closer to 1 or 2 before we start to see a couple of pop-up storms, fairly isolated. So our initial rain chances are pretty low. And again, once we get later tonight, that's when we'll start to see some scattered shower and thunderstorm chances again initially up north. And as we go overnight and into our Thursday, we'll start to see more rain chances across a broader portion of our area. We're sitting at 76 in Joplin right now, 76 in Pittsburgh. Keep in mind our average low should be about 70, so you can see we're nowhere near that. We're going right now, most temperatures are sitting into the mid to upper 70s across the area. You got 74 though, Monette, Cassville, so that much cooler than everybody else. We are going to heat up, and we're going to do so quickly again. Low 80s by 9 this morning, near 90 by noon, low to mid 90s for our highs. Again, isolated pop-up storm chances. Southwest winds gusting to 25. And here's the other hard part, though. Our heat index values today easily reaching 105 degrees. Out in our western counties, where sometimes it gets a bit warmer than everyone else, heat index values could climb a little higher than 105. So you've got to make sure you're taking care of yourself, staying hydrated and taking breaks, staying inside where you can. Our heat will continue, and the temperatures will really start to crank up over the next several days. But we also have those thunderstorm chances to get through tomorrow. Details on all of that here in just a few more minutes. Elise?
All right, we'll see you soon. Well, authorities have arrested an Oklahoma man accused of scamming an elderly Lamar, Missouri resident out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. The suspect is this man, Ravi Maniganti of Edmond, Oklahoma. Barton County, Missouri investigators believe he scammed the victim by claiming to be an employee of the Federal Trade Commission. Court documents say Maniganti told the victim their bank account had been compromised, and if the victim did not provide him with all of their money, it would be lost or stolen. Authorities say the victim provided Maniganti with 4 money transfers starting just last month. One was for $25,000 via a Bitcoin machine in Joplin. Then 3 times the victim was instructed to give various amounts of money to a man who would show up in a car at the victim's home. Those 3 transactions totaled an additional $235,000. Authorities say they arrested Maniganti as he was leaving the victim's home with $85,000. And a judge in Tulsa sentences a Grove man for possession of child pornography. In February 2023, 24-year-old Dakota Clark, a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, began communicating with the 14-year-old on social media. Investigation revealed Clark coerced the minor to produce sexually explicit photos. Clark also possessed hundreds of sexual images of minors. Clark will receive 20 years in prison, followed by 15 years supervised release. Upon release, Clark will be required to register as a sex offender. And authorities in Montgomery County, Kansas, raised the reward amount for information concerning the shooting death of 5 dogs. A caution: while the image we are going to show has been altered due to its graphic nature, you might find it disturbing. Authorities responded to a scene last week where 5 dogs had been shot and lay dying. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office is investigating the incident as an act of animal cruelty. The department has reached out to the public for information as well as offering a reward. Since then, people have offered more money to add to the reward. The amount is now up to $1,600. If you have any information, contact the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. Police in Los Angeles are investigating after a man and woman were found dead with gunshot wounds at their home. The victims reportedly were a longtime American Idol producer, Robin Kay, and her husband. The LAPD confirmed an arrest has been made in the case and says the bodies were found when officers conducted a welfare check. Both victims were pronounced dead at the scene. The deaths are being investigated as a double homicide. The incident has heightened concern among neighbors. And to be the first to see breaking news, weather, and sports, you can download the KOAM News app. It's available free of charge in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Just search for the KOAM News app. A fire alerted first responders yesterday evening at a packaging company in Joplin. Joplin first responders were alerted around 6:30 p.m. yesterday to a fire that broke out inside a machine at West Rock. The facility was evacuating all of its employees as the first units arrived. Officials are investigating the fire and added that they suspect it was nothing suspicious. No one was injured and employees were able to re-enter the building around 7 p.m. Well, the Neosho City Council last night paid tribute to former police chief Jason Baird with the proclamation. The mayor, Richard Davidson, issued the proclamation. In it, he gave his sympathies to the police department and Baird's family, as well as honored a public servant who served his community for more than 30 years as a law enforcement officer. The Durham Police also acknowledged the contribution Baird had on the Neosho community.
I think it was great that the city, took time to recognize Chief Baird. He did work for the city for 28 years, basically devoted his life to the police department, eventually was able to be the chief for his last 5 years.
A memorial service was held for Baird last week. And Dr. Amy Daly with the National Children's Miracle Network visited Joplin yesterday. KOAM's Ty Parks has more on how local partnerships are key in the network's mission.
Children's Miracle Network President Amy Daly visited Freeman Health System Tuesday, starting with a stop at the NICU.
Started out in Arkansas. I'm making my way up through the state of Missouri over the next few days.
During the tour, Dr. Daly saw many of the items that Children's Miracle Network helped fund, as well as local champions.
We met with Layla, who's one of your local champions, and her dog Nico, who helps her with her diabetes. A really great alert dog that was part of the Miracle Dog program that Freeman Health has, and so that's how she received that dog.
He says that what Children's Miracle Network does sometimes stops her in her tracks.
Right, it kind of just takes your breath away, because the work that we do, it's both it can be heartbreaking at times, right, the work that we do, but it's also very heartwarming. And so that was one of my moments for me where I walked in here and I thought, like, what an incredible testament to this community.
But she also says that it's the partnerships that get the job done.
I see both sides of the coin, because the hospitals are the ones that are doing the work. They're providing the care. But the corporate partners in our programs are where the money's being raised. And so this trip is such an absolute combination of both of those things that I get to walk from seeing the care in action to seeing the money raised that's helping that happen, and see the frontline employees who are out there doing it, whether it's providing the care or providing the encouragement for the community to raise money. And it just makes me really proud.
Reporting in Joplin, Ty Parks, KOAM News.
Dr. Daly's visit comes after the local CMN chapter won the National In-Flight Challenge, where local hospitals track partnership stewardship, fundraising, and relationship building. And that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes, coming up on the KOAM Morning News. President Trump ramps up pressure on Russia and scores key wins on crypto and federal spending. Plus, new research reveals the simple exercises that could help you sleep better without medication. And we're tracking hot and humid weather across the region. Chris has your full forecast Coming up in the Skywatch Weather Center, you're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back, but first, here's a live look from the fairgrounds of Bourbon County, located in Fort Scott, Kansas. Well, topping Nation Watch later today, President Trump is expected to meet with the leader of Qatar as he continues his push for an Israel-Gaza ceasefire as well as a nuclear deal with Iran. Meanwhile, Russia has shot down his latest demand for a peace deal with Ukraine. CBS News' Jared Hill has more from New York.
Russia is rejecting President Donald Trump's ultimatum for a ceasefire with Ukraine. The president threatened new sanctions if no deals reached in 50 days. Authorities in Moscow call the demands unacceptable.
He says he wants peace. He does. So far, it's all talk and no action.
The president says he hasn't spoken to Russian leader Vladimir Putin since announcing the proposal and laying out a plan to sell weapons to NATO for Ukraine on Monday.
NATO is going to pay us back for everything.
Crypto Week got off to a rocky start.
The resolution is not adopted.
A procedural vote failed, stopping the House from advancing the Senate's Genius Act, a bill to regulate the cryptocurrency stablecoin, gaining interest with big business and big banks. But today an about-face is expected. Last night, the president announced that 11 GOP hardliners will now vote yes after meeting with him at the White House.
They wanted to be stronger for people with Bitcoin or crypto.
Meanwhile, a nail-biter in the Senate Tuesday night.
The vice president votes in the affirmative.
Vice President J.D. Vance cast a tie-breaking vote advancing President Trump's plan to claw back over $9 billion in federal funding for foreign aid, NPR, and PBS. 3 Republicans, Susan Collins, Mitch McConnell, and Lisa Murkowski, voted no along with Democrats. The bill needs to pass by Friday or the funding continues as planned. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Well, some lawmakers also took issue with a provision that would have made cuts to a well-regarded HIV/AIDS prevention program. And still to come, new research reveals the simple exercises that could help you sleep better. Plus, hot and humid conditions return today. Chris checks what to expect in today's forecast. Well, good times never seemed so good for one theater audience in Los Angeles recently. David Daniel has that and more in today's Hollywood Minute.
A surprise appearance by Neil Diamond. The legendary singer-songwriter showed up at a Hollywood performance of A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond musical, and led the audience in a rendition of his 1969 hit, Sweet Caroline. Diamond announced his retirement 7 years ago, revealing he'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Andrew Garfield is re-teaming with Luca Guadagnino. The actor has joined the cast of Guadagnino's Artificial, described as a comedic drama set in the world of artificial intelligence. Garfield recently worked with the filmmaker on After the Hunt, which is due in theaters October 10th.
The total for Summer Games Done Quick 2025 is $2,436,614.
That's how much the latest Games Done Quick video game speedrunning marathon raised for Doctors Without Borders. This year's event was held in Minneapolis. All of the runs are archived on the Games Done Quick YouTube channel. Leveling Up in Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Certainly some fantastic events. Let's head over now to Chris for a quick look at your forecast.
And a fantastic day to maybe stay inside and practice your own speed run as we get hot and muggy into the afternoon. We had storm chances on the way as well. Details when we come back. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:21 now on this Wednesday morning. We again do have that isolated risk for a strong storm or two in our far northern counties. Could bring some gusty winds. And when I show you a future track, we'll talk about how isolated this risk is. But it is there, and it'll be after midnight tonight. So it's something we'll monitor for you, but it's not something, at least at this point, we're overly concerned about. Into the afternoon, we've had the pop-up storms as early as 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning the last couple of days. Not going to be the case today. Probably after 1 1, we'll see isolated pop-up storms. So most of us will be dry through the afternoon and evening, but late evening, here we are at 10 o'clock, we get some scattered showers, maybe some thunderstorms out there. It's this little tail here. It's part of a complex of storms. It's going to bring a greater severe threat off to our north, and that could bring a strong storm or two with an isolated gusty wind out there. But as you can see, it doesn't last long, doesn't really move that far into our area, but we'll still watch it for you. As we go overnight, though, we'll get additional thunderstorms initially developing in our northern counties. Those will also kind of fizzle out by let's say mid-morning or so, by 7, 8 a.m. But also by 7, 8 a.m. as those fizzle out, that front starts to push further south, and that brings us new storm development along the Kansas-Oklahoma border into southwest Missouri, again, after, say, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Those thunderstorms will continue. They'll kind of fizzle out. Then we'll get additional scattered storms as we head later into the day, but they'll become a little more isolated during the afternoon and evening hours. But overnight, from late Thursday into early Friday, we could get redevelopment of some additional showers and thunderstorms out there that'll continue in, say, the first half of our Friday, and then as we roll into Friday afternoon and evening, those storms will also clear out. Now, at this point, our severe threat, which is, again, very isolated for the wind risk up here, that's as close as we get to any strong to severe thunderstorm risks over the next couple of days. If that changes, we'll let you know, but the thunderstorm chances as we roll through late Thursday and into Friday, we do not have, at this time, any severe risk areas highlighted with any of that. So that's some good news, at least there. Got a great sunrise. Do not have great temperatures, however, though. It is already very warm, very muggy this morning across the area. Got a few clouds to start the day, and that is courtesy of some decaying thunderstorms. Again, something similar. It keeps kind of repeating up to our north. Another line of strong to low-grade severe storms pushing southeast through Nebraska into northeast Kansas and dying out as it passes the KC Metro. So we could get a few clouds from that. Then we'll start to just kind of be partly cloudy through the morning. And take a look at these temperatures, upper 80s by 11. Our highs today, low to mid 90s. Heat index values for most of us will easily reach 105. And of course, in some of our western counties, it does get a little warmer out there sometimes. That also will cause your heat index values to be a little higher than 105. So you got to stay hydrated. You got to make sure you're taking breaks, taking care of yourself, staying in when you can. Just watch out for that heat. And of course, remember, if you hear an isolated pop-up storm, you see some clouds when thunder roars, head indoors. All right, southwest winds also gusting upwards of 25 miles an hour. Into the evening we go. Again, isolated storms initially. Then after 10, as we showed you on Future Track, scattered storm chances, still low 80s by 10. Falling back into the low to mid 70s tonight with that south wind at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Over the next couple of days, tomorrow, I know the temperature, it's down like 3 degrees. It's 90. That looks fine, and it does look all right. That's actually close to average. But thanks to these storms, they're bringing in a lot of moisture. It's going to put our heat index values for at least a good portion of us getting close to 100 again tomorrow, so upper 90s for sure. So even though the temperatures are a bit lower, it's still going to be very muggy. Low mid 90s return Friday, and they continue into the weekend. Some pop-up storm chances Monday, Tuesday, and at least at this point, some long-range data suggesting that, yes, by the end of next week, we could be getting close to highs near 100. So make sure you are ready as summer really starts to kick in. Let's check your forecast. We're going to send it over to Elise now with Health Watch.
All right, thanks. Well, what types of exercise are the best ways to fight insomnia? Well, research published in the British Medical Journal found yoga, tai chi, walking, or jogging all had the biggest benefit to improving sleep quality and reducing insomnia. The study suggests exercise could be an alternative to conventional insomnia treatments like drugs and therapy. Yoga in particular led to nearly 2 extra hours of sleep time. And for people with type 2 diabetes and obesity, taking GLP-1 weight loss drugs led to a lower risk of dementia, stroke, and death. The study published by JAMA showed that popular weight loss drugs could have benefits in protecting against neurodegenerative diseases. Elderly patients, women, and obese people got the most benefit from the drugs. And a warning from doctors about medical tourism for weight loss surgery. A study published in BMJ Global Health says despite the rise in popularity of weight loss drugs, more Americans are traveling abroad for cheap bariatric and weight reduction surgery, and the industry is largely unregulated, which increases the risk for complications and even death. When the heat outside is making your insides revolt against food, you're not alone. Experts say weather has a big impact on our appetites. Now, today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither finds out why and what you should eat during a heat wave.
As temperatures keep going higher, your appetite may be getting smaller, and researchers say there's a reason for this. Science.
It actually has to do with the thermic effect of food. So we're not as hungry in the heat because our bodies don't want to get overheated.
Registered dietitian Julia Zumpano with Cleveland Clinic says digesting food and stockpiling its nutrients uses energy, which generates heat. If your body is already hot, it may not want any more heat.
Generally and naturally, our appetites just drop in the summer and in the hotter months.
Even if you're not as hungry, Zumpano says it's still important to have a balanced diet. She says to choose the most nutrient-dense foods possible, like fresh fruits and veggies, and make sure you're getting enough protein. You might opt for ones that aren't as heavy.
Proteins can come from meats or fish, but it can also come from things like eggs and beans and dairy sources like cottage cheese and Greek yogurt.
And finally, Zumpano says digestion can slow down when you're dehydrated, so make sure to drink plenty of water.
Even focusing on hydrating foods can be very helpful, like watermelon and lettuce and celery and cucumbers, cherries and citrus fruits and strawberries. So all of those foods can be very hydrating, in addition to, of course, increasing your fluid intake.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Zumpano says if your appetite does decrease during the summer, lean into that. She says it can help you be healthier, especially if you put on some pounds in the winter, a season which she says tends to have the opposite effect on appetites. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. We'll be right back. Right now at 6:30, some drivers in Carl Junction get ready for a speed limit change just ahead of the school season.
And we've got what looks like a very nice start to the day, but already warm and muggy and rain chances on the horizon. A look at your forecast coming up.
Plus a caution about farm implements on roadways across the 4 states.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:32. I'm Elise Noe.
And I'm Chris Warner. It is now Wednesday. It's July the 16th and really starting to feel like July across the area. Hot
really
and muggy
is,
out
yes.
there. And it's already, I mean, walking out the door, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
It hits you.
It was. It's really muggy out there
really
already this morning. Let's start with our live look at downtown Pittsburgh, of course, and it looks fantastic. You can already see it's a bit hazy, but we got the sunshine out there, but it will be unpleasant by this afternoon. All right, MoDOT camera 20th and range line in Joplin also looking pretty good. Now again, late this evening, really overnight after midnight, still have that chance in our far northern counties for maybe an isolated strong storm or two with some gusty winds. Really, it's based on current trends and what the future track's thinking. We're looking at maybe the tail end of a complex of what will be stronger and more severe storms to our north, just barely clipping us. And that's why that risk is there, because it may make it this far south, but it's still a very isolated and limited risk at this point. Into the afternoon, we'll have gusty southwest winds. Our pop-up storms starting a little later today, after about 1 o'clock or so, and they'll be fairly isolated, so most of us will remain dry through the afternoon into the evening. And once we reach about 10 o'clock or so, that's when we start to see our first round of at least some scattered showers and thunderstorms before they start to increase a bit in coverage overnight into our Thursday. 76 in Joplin right now, 76 in Pittsburgh. Average low, by the way, is 70 for this time of year. Temperatures mid-upper 70s. We wish it was the 60s, but mid-upper 70s for many of us out there. Cassville, Monette, a little cooler, both at 74 along with Sedan. So still well above normal in any case. Low 80s by 9 o'clock this morning, 90 by noon. Isolated pop-up storm chances rolling to the afternoon and evening. Those southwest winds gusting to 25. Now the other side of this, though, it's already muggy this morning. It's going to make it pretty nasty this afternoon. We're talking heat index values for most of us, easily reaching 105 degrees. Our western counties, where it gets a little warmer during the day, could have those heat index values past 105 by a degree or two. So just make sure you're staying hydrated, taking breaks, and staying in when you can as we head into the afternoon hours. hours. Now, we do have our storm chances. It's going to rain. We have a few more of them as we roll into Thursday and the first part of our Friday. And then the summer heat looks to really crank up. Go over those details with you here in just a few more minutes. Elise?
All right, Chris, thanks. Well, the Newton County Sheriff's Office awards its deputy of the second quarter in part for a potentially life-saving roadside rescue. Body cam footage shows Sergeant Nick Boo noticed a vehicle traveling slower than the others, which created a traffic problem. Boo notified dispatch after determining the driver was slumped over the wheel. He then moved to use emergency equipment to set up a traffic stop, then ran from his car to the still rolling vehicle. Boo managed to stop the vehicle where he discovered the non-responsive driver. He then removed the driver, placed him on the ground and began CPR. First responders say the driver was able to talk when taken to an area hospital. The driver was diagnosed as having a heart attack and reached out later to thank Sergeant Boo. Authorities say Sergeant Boo's observations of the traffic on the roadway and his immediate actions not only saved the life of the driver of the vehicle, but likely prevented a serious motor vehicle accident. And the Newton County Sheriff's Office says it's proud to recognize Sergeant Nick Boo for this action and for his dedication to serving the citizens of Newton County and name him deputy of the second quarter. Well, some drivers going through Carl Junction should be aware of a speed limit change beginning Monday. Route Z on Imperial Road and Walnut Street in front of the high school. The speed limit will be reduced from 45 to 40. Now, once school begins, the school zone will be reduced from 35 to 30. The change comes following a resident-requested speed study conducted by MoDOT, which found the speed limit to be higher than it needed to be. And drivers on I-44 may need to seek an alternative route beginning next Monday night. Expect work crews along I-44 in Newton, Jasper, Lawrence, and Greene counties, starting from the Main Street exit in Joplin and working their way toward Missouri Route 125 in Stratford. Crews will be collecting core samples for the Forward 44 project. Lane closures will take place nightly from 8 p.m. until 6 each morning, beginning next Monday and running through late September. Well, with the wheat harvest well underway, you may have encountered tractors and combines going in and out of roadways. Kansas Highway Patrol is reminding motorists that these vehicles are larger than the lane of traffic and aren't designed to travel at normal speeds. As KOAM's Lonnie Walton reports, law enforcement says you should take caution when sharing the road with these massive vehicles.
Just the other people is what bothers me, but...
Brendan Coach works in Cherokee County as a tractor operator. He says people in the community are pretty respectful to him while driving his tractor, well, most of the time.
Turning, you know, when I went to make a turn, someone went to go around me and it got pretty close, but other than that, nothing major.
And with that, Kansas Patrol Officer Gary Boyle says turns can be tricky sometimes.
We can't assume that if they move to the right, that means they want us to go around to the left or they're getting ready to make a right turn. Oftentimes when they move to the right, it's actually because they're going to make a left turn.
Law enforcement says you can increase your speed to go around these heavy trucks, but you just can't go above the speed limit.
And even have to come close to the speed limit to pass this equipment because they're traveling at 15, 20, maybe 25 miles per hour.
Boyle says there are things you shouldn't do when you encounter these trucks.
Do not pass if you're coming up on a curve or a hill or a bridge.
And finally, there are some challenges for people who operate this machinery.
On what you're pulling, you know, it's hard to see different things. So behind you, you know, you can't see a lot of things behind you. But
these vehicles are big. They're going to take up a lot of space. They don't move fast. And the equipment is very loud, so they may not even hear you.
And local law enforcement goes on to say that if driving behind these heavy trucks is a concern for you, they recommend leaving early. Reporting in Cherokee County, I'm Lonnie Walton, KOAM News.
Boyle says never speed up after passing up a truck to make up time lost, as this could increase the likelihood of a crash. And now to look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. A popular brand of bread is being recalled for a potentially dangerous allergen mislabeling. What you need to know. Plus, the numbers from the newly released inflation report. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back, but first, here's a live look from the fairgrounds of Bourbon County, located in Fort Scott, Kansas. In Consumer Watch, the U.S. Senate narrowly voted to advance the White House's recessions package yesterday. After a tie-breaking vote from Vice President J.D. Vance, the bill, which passed the House last month, would claw back $9.4 billion in federal funding for foreign aid, NPR, and PBS. Congress faces a final deadline of Friday to pass the full package, or else the funding would be spent as originally planned. Well, Hartford Bakery is recalling some of its Lewis Bake Shop brand artisan-style half-loaf bread because it may contain undeclared hazelnuts, which could cause a serious or life-threatening reaction for people with severe nut allergies. According to the FDA, the recalled bread was distributed in a dozen states and sold by major retailers like Kroger and Walmart. Consumers can return the affected loaves to the place of purchase for a refund. And inflation rose in June to its highest level since February as the initial effects of tariffs weigh on consumer prices. Kelly O'Grady reports from the New York Stock Exchange.
Inflation is moving in the wrong direction. Consumer prices rose 0.3% on the month in June, up 2.7% from a year ago. That's the highest level in 4 months. The pressure pointing to one thing in particular.
I think we're starting to see the impact of tariffs creep into this report.
Prices were up for clothing, furniture, and toys, all tariff-sensitive items. And dining out, up 4% at full-service sit-down restaurants.
I think that people have a legitimate gripe in that there are big categories that see high prices, whether it's your cost of housing, the cost of your car, the cost of insurance, the cost of going to a doctor. These are still areas that are really putting pressure on the households of America.
A real jolt in the CPI report, the price of coffee, up more than 13% from this time last year. Brian Jocelyn owns Mountain Phoenix Coffee Roastery in Salida, Colorado. He says he's managed to remain competitive despite raising prices 3 times over the past year. But a combination of inclement weather and steeper tariffs, like the 50% threat against Brazil, could sour the brew.
Brazil has been known for years for essentially setting the pricing for the entire industry for the rest of the year.
We are well positioned to wait to learn more.
Tuesday's report supports the Federal Reserve's wait-and-see approach on interest rates, with the central bank unlikely to budge at its July meeting.
Investors are looking beyond the tariffs, anticipating that the administration will back down from the threat of steeper import taxes and keep the current levels in place. At the New York Stock Exchange, Kelly O'Grady, CBS News.
Not to look at Consumer Watch, here's Chris with a quick look at your forecast.
Yeah, we've got a nice sunrise out there. However, it is going to be hot and muggy as we roll through the afternoon with some pop-up storms. We'll go over your full forecast and birthdays and anniversaries right after this. All right, time now for some Wednesday birthdays in the 4 states. We're going to start in Dennis, Kansas with Ashlyn Smith celebrating birthday number 21. Happy birthday.
And in Iola, happy 23rd birthday to Gage Turner.
And in Pittsburgh, Ryan Lothmiller celebrating birthday number 49 today. Happy birthday.
And happy birthday to Judy Collins, turning 73 in Erie.
And we've got Madison Burton celebrating another year wiser today. A very happy birthday to you, Madison, and a happy birthday to everyone on our list.
Yes.
And this one a little bit on the short side. And if you would like to help make it a little longer, get a few more celebrations in there, Elise has information you need to know.
Yes, please submit your birthdays and anniversaries to birthdays@KOAMnewsnow.com. Be sure to include those wonderful photos and messages to meet the deadline at the bottom of your screen. And to also please include the date of your celebration when submitting as well.
Absolutely. Very important information there. Some important information for you as we head into the afternoon. Of course, it's a look at your forecast. We do have, as we've mentioned since yesterday, this narrow corridor of basically a level 1 out of 5 risk for some stronger storms with damaging wind gusts. Now, when I show you the future track, we're going to talk about what we're looking at. So we've got a greater severe threat off to our north, but the far southern edge of it may try and clip a couple of our northern counties after midnight tonight, which we'll see on the future track in just a moment. But first, into the afternoon for today, we are looking at partly cloudy skies. We've had our pop-up storms start pretty early the last couple of days. Today, they'll be starting probably after 1, and will again be very isolated. The majority of us will be dry through the afternoon and early evening. Now, by 10, we do get some scattered showers and thunderstorms, mainly in the northern half of our area. And then here we are are about midnight or so. This is the tail end of a complex of what's expected to be some stronger storms toward north. This little thing here might try and be low-grade severe with some gusty winds before it dies out. Then by 5, we've got some additional scattered showers and storms once again, mainly in the northern half of our area. Those are expected to die out, and as they die out by about 6, 7 a.m., we'll get new thunderstorm development, and this will be riding the Kansas-Oklahoma border just to the north there, stretching into southwest Missouri. Now, we have the severe risk area that we showed you for our far northern counties for overnight tonight. At this time, that's the only thing we have. We have thunderstorm chances across the area, and we have a general thunderstorm risk, that light green color that's not a severe threat with it. That's what we have the next couple of days. So at this time, any additional storms that we're looking at, not expected to be severe. If it changes, we'll of course let you know, but that's at least some good news there. Now, as we go through Thursday, those storms scattered out there. Some of them start to fizzle out. Then we'll get some additional isolated to widely scattered storms through the afternoon, possibly into the evening Thursday, though I think most of us will be dry. However, overnight Thursday into Friday, we could get new development of some additional thunderstorms. Again, not expecting anything severe at this point, but about, say, 2, 3 a.m., new storms developing through southeast Kansas. We get a couple more through the mid-morning hours out there as well. And then as we roll into Friday afternoon and evening, we should begin to clear out from the rain chances. Now, even though we're going to have the rain cloud cover tomorrow, it doesn't do a lot for our heat index values, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So here's what we've got to start with. We've got mostly clear skies. Could have a few clouds out there from what's been a common theme over the last couple of weeks. A decaying line of storms that rolled through the Kansas City metro could get some clouds off of that. Otherwise, we'll have a mix of mostly clear to partly cloudy skies, near 80 by 8, near 90 by 11 o'clock this morning, because we're going to heat up quickly. As we go into the afternoon, low to mid 90s across the region. We'll have southwest winds gusting to 25, but that's the thing. It's not a cool breeze. It does nothing to help you out whatsoever. Now, with that said, though, humidity levels increasing today, dew point levels climbing as well, and our temperatures climbing. So just about all of us could very easily see heat index values up to 105. But our western counties, you folks know, it gets a little warmer out there sometimes, and if it does, then we're talking those heat index values are going to go a bit over 105 as well. So just stay hydrated, take precautions, stay in where you can, be cautious out there, and just also remember, when thunder roars, head indoors. You don't want to be caught out in one of these thunderstorms. Into the evening we go. Still isolated storms initially. And then as we showed you on the future track, around 9, 10 o'clock, start to see scattered storm chances. But look at how warm and muggy it still is by 10 o'clock tonight. Low 80s out there. Low to mid 70s overnight. South winds calming down a bit at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Tomorrow, temperatures climbing to about 90. Heat index values, though, still could be close to 100. And the reason is all the humidity, all the moisture that's going to be brought in ahead of these storms. We have that cold front coming through. It's a weak one, but that's what's going to trigger them. Ahead of it, very muggy, very uncomfortable. Low to mid 90s Friday, muggy and uncomfortable again. Storms wrap up by the afternoon, and then take a look. Some pop-up storms Monday, Tuesday. Temperatures easily climbing, possibly near 100 degrees toward the end of next week. Something we want to keep an eye on as well. We're going to have another look at your forecast and your wake-up recap in a moment. And when we transition to Fox 14, or if you hang out with us here on KOAM Plus, we're going to tell you about a program in Minnesota that's using mountain bikes to help mentor young girls.
This is your wake-up recap for July 16th. Your top stories to start your day. Authorities arrest Ravi Mangati of Edmond, Oklahoma for scamming an elderly Lamar, Missouri resident out of more than $250,000. Court documents say Mangati told the victim their bank account had been compromised. Authorities say they arrested Mangati as he was leaving the victim's home with $85,000. Well, a fire alerted first responders yesterday evening to a packaging company in Joplin. Joplin first responders were alerted around 6:30 p.m. to fire inside a machine at West Rock. The facility evacuated all of its employees as the first units arrived. No one was injured, and employees were able to re-enter the building around 7 p.m. And the Newton County Sheriff's Office awards its Deputy of the Second Quarter to Sergeant Nick Boo, in part for a potentially life-saving roadside rescue. Body cam footage shows Sergeant Boo pulling a driver from a moving vehicle after he determined the driver was slumped over the wheel. The driver was diagnosed as having a heart attack and reached out later to thank Sergeant Boo. That's a check of today's Wake Up Recap.
And again, hot and muggy today, low mid-90s, heat index values easily to 105. Isolated pop-up storms, southwest winds gusting to 25. Isolated storm or two into the evening, then by 10 we start to see a few more scattered storms across the area. Those continue overnight, low to mid-70s. More scattered storms through the day on Thursday, still hot and muggy though, highs around 90, heat index values close to 100. Storms start to wrap up by Friday afternoon and will continue to climb low to mid-90s through the weekend and maybe getting close to 100 by the end of next week.
Okay. Well, coming up today at noon, we're making tuna twist in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
And your morning news continues on KOAM with CBS Mornings. Prices continue to rise, and it could get worse with higher tariffs expected next month. Coming up next on CBS Mornings, Kelly O'Grady explains what this all means for your bottom line.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. This morning, Delia Lister from the PSU Nature Reach is with us this morning to share a few tips on how to keep yourself and the animals safe during the summer.
Plus, Will Morris from the Kansas Research and Extension Office joins us in the studio for another Wildcat Wednesday. However, it's going to wrap things up for us for now. See you back here tomorrow morning, bright and early at 5 a.m.
And we'll see you today at noon.